guess what I'm seeing right now is the program, not the people.
Check one, two. So can you guys hear me now? You should be able to hear me. My bad. Guys, let me know if you can hear me. Uh, copy. Check one, two. So guys, let me know if you can hear me. I believe I had some issues with my audio. I actually changed my microphone, but you should be able to hear me now. So let me know in the chat if you can hear me. I would appreciate that. Uh, this is what happens when you haven't been going live for quite some time. Um, all right, guys, let me know in the chat if you can hear me. No audio. Your voice isn't coming through. Okay. Yes, we can hear you now. Perfect. Perfect. So it looks like you guys can hear me. Just gonna fix it real quick. Because I changed my microphone. I actually forgot to change that in OBS. So group scene. All right, everyone. Welcome to the stream. So sorry for this. This happens a lot when you go live, so I apologize. So I hope everyone can hear me now. Again, guys, my name is Sam, and I go by La Production Tips and Tools here on YouTube.com. So today we're gonna be talking about lighting. At the same time, let me know how you're doing today. Make sure you leave your comments in the chat. Say hello. Make sure you hit that like button at the same time. Make sure if you have questions, you can leave them down below in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to actually, if it's something, if you guys have questions about like your live streaming setup and stuff like that, I'll be more than happy to actually help you. So today is actually gonna be special. We have a co-host, my friend Steve. Actually, I will let him introduce himself, but his name is Steve. So we're gonna be actually hosting the show together today. And let me actually bring him in. My man Steve, how you doing, man?
Hello, hello. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. I just want to make sure people in the chat can hear you and hear me at the same time. Because this is OBS, so OBS is always like, you gotta do your thing, make sure it's so, well done before you actually go live. But guys, let me know in the chat if you can hear me and can hear Steve. I would actually appreciate that. But other than that, let's actually get going. Steve, for people who don't know you, man, who are you? And just a little introduction because it's your first time on the channel.
Yes.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes. So, obviously, my name is Steve. Uh, I'm a professional photographer. I've been doing photography for about just over 10 years now. And I've worked, I'm actually currently working in broadcast live production. Um, and pretty much I'm all about visuals. So whether it being like graphics or video or photos, that's pretty much what I live and breathe through every single day. That's pretty much the things that I do. Thank you for having me. Hmm, what's going on?
So if I do this, check one, two, check one, two. Can you guys hear me now? And yes, my solo. So you guys should be able to hear me now because I can see the signal in OBS. I really really apologize for this. So we can hear you now. Okay, perfect. So I have like few scenes which is this is my main, so you should be able to hear me on this one. And this is Steve, you should be able to hear me on this one. And this is Steve and me, you should be able to hear me on this one as well. Okay, although we may have some delays and stuff, which is it's gonna be something that I'll have to fix after the stream. But you should be able to hear me now on either Steve's scene and my scene, or both of us together. All right. Yes, we can. All right, Isaac, so much. Thank you so much for actually helping me out. I do appreciate you, man. Isaac, thank you so much for joining, and everybody who's watching. I do appreciate you guys for being here. Again, let me know how you guys doing, where you're watching from. And if you guys have questions, as always, we're gonna go straight to the content. I always like to acknowledge those some people who are present in the chat, and just to acknowledge your presence. And if you have questions, obviously we're gonna get back to you guys at the end. But I also appreciate you guys because you've been so helpful helping me to fix my audio stuff, so thank you so much. Let's say Lee from UK. Let's see what we have here. We have yes, we can hear you both. Perfect. We have audio has gone again, but that was before, right? I believe now you should be able to hear me. Yeah, I see signal. We can hear Sam again. Okay, that was before. Behind. Okay, I'm watching from Nigeria. That's Isaac. Thanks so much for joining. We got Lee. Hi from the UK. Thanks so much, Lee. I do appreciate you being here, man. Yes, we can hear you. All right. We're good to go now, Steve.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome. So guys, I do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for helping me out. This is awesome. It's actually a good thing to be able to have a community like you guys. So yeah, so today we're gonna be talking about lighting, guys. Either you are into creating content, like me who creates YouTube videos from home. I do actually live stream. Sometimes I live stream here on YouTube. Sometimes I actually live stream on Amazon as well. That's why actually my scenes in OBS got messed up, because before I actually start this live stream, I was live on Amazon. That's why the whole thing kind of got messed up. But yeah, so I'm back now. Everything should be sounding good. So we're gonna be talking about not audio, lighting. So when it comes to live streaming, either you have a home office like me creating YouTube videos, or creating some other videos like Twitch. So doesn't matter where you create content, you always kind of need to nail your lighting. Your lighting is like one of the key elements when it comes to live streaming or creating video content. Okay. I would say number one key element for your content is your audio. Number two is your lighting. Before you even talk about your camera, right? So if your lighting is on a point, your video is gonna be on a point. Okay, so that's one. So that's why, again, even if you're not doing YouTube stuff like, social media, creating content for social media, we're gonna be actually focusing on, yes, if you have an office at home or something like that, for social media. But we're also gonna give some tips. Let's say if you are coming from let's say church production, it's all the same concept. Okay, the same concept applies anywhere. Maybe you may have to use different solutions, like different lights or stuff like that, but the concept is all the same. All right, so that's that, guys. All right, so let's go back to Steve. Steve, my man, you got some tips for us. Let's go to actually the tip number one, which would be Steve.
The
I believe
background.
you got it.
Yes,
Your background.
yes, the background. It is honestly very important. The first thing you need to do, especially in lighting, is not even start lighting, because you have to be mindful of what's in your scene as to what you want people to see, especially if like your background is a little messy or whatever. Um, that's definitely something that you want to be mindful of. So the first tip is really just to clean your background. Just start from scratch. That's something that is very important. And um, essentially, like in my opinion, it's really good to have a little bit of add a little bit of like personality in the background, just a little bit of like decorations, or I don't know, let's say like having like a little camera or a poster or something in the background to mm, just to show a little bit of your personality. uh Currently right now, I just moved in here, so it's a little empty. But yeah, over the course of time, there I'm gonna add a little bit more like decorations and things like that. But yeah, background is something very important. So yeah, Sam, do you have anything else to add on to that?
Yeah, of course, man. Like, when it comes to your background, I would say that's why we actually made it the tip number one. Is you guys can see my background right now. Okay, let me just cut to my main camera. So if you can see, everything that I have here is intentional. Okay, so when it comes to your background, you have to be intentional about every little detail. Okay, again, depending on what you're trying to do. So let's say for instance, if you're creating content for social media like myself, you can see that monitor behind me. For instance, let me just give you a quick example. um I can remove, there's an image on my screen right now. If I remove it, you guys can see it's kind of black. It's not, it doesn't look good, right? So that's why I have like this image. I have it like kind of full screen on my screen.
Yeah.
And that creates like, it's like my branding. You can see it kind of matches my t-shirt as well. You guys can see the color of my t-shirt, this little thing here, this little logo. So like you have to be intentional about every little detail. Now you can see some lights, obviously. My wall, the room where I'm sitting right now, is kind of black. So it's like almost the same as Steve's, right? So, but what I did, I have an RGB light, just a small light. Uh, I mean, this is just an example. Just it's a small light, really. I actually have a few lights here that I can show
Is
you.
that the light that you used at the church?
Which church?
My church.
Probably, yeah. But that's not the one that I'm using
Okay.
on the background. Yeah. But I have another. This is like an RGB light, okay?
Oh,
Again, for like if you're working with small rooms like this, you don't need to get a huge light, right? So you can see like this is an RGB light, super small, almost the same size as the one that I just showed you. The one that I just showed you is not RGB, okay? So let me just show you little quick. This is what it looks like, guys. They are all the same. They are made by a company called LoomCube. I'm gonna be making some video about it. But what I'm trying to tell you is, If you get like some RGB light and kind of create some color instead of having like a flat white wall, it creates some, your background becomes a little more dynamic, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is you don't have to really like use RGB. Again, you can do some decoration,
Yeah.
maybe have a flower. Again, depending on what kind of message you're trying to send to your viewers, right? So like me, I'm into tech, so I have my screen. Sometimes I'll have my lenses, I have my cameras. That's part of the decor.
Hmm.
You could do the same thing. Let's say if you are into cooking, maybe you have a channel about cooking, your background is gonna be the kitchen, right? If you have a channel about I don't know, maybe let's say if it's a big room or it's a big venue and you're creating content for church, right? You could still use like do some decoration, have a cross in the background, and maybe use some RGB, a little bigger lights. It's not gonna be like small pocket RGB lights, obviously, and use some lights to create some colorful kind of looking background, right? Have some elements for Christmas. You're gonna have some Christmas trees and stuff like that. So that's like your background. That's how you create the whole messaging. Now, another thing you can actually do to make your background pop, you could use your camera, which is gonna be something that we're gonna talk about, to kind of make your background a little blurry, right? So it doesn't like so just to kind of shift the focus on the main subject. But it's gonna be something that we're gonna talk about in a minute with Steve. But I hope that gave you an idea when it comes to like creating, like everything that is in your background has to be intentional.
Yeah.
Don't just like be like, okay, whatever is there is what I'm going to capture. Doesn't matter what kind of content you're actually creating.
Hmm.
All right, Steve, any ideas?
Yes. So, like I said, it's really important. I feel like even when you watch like the TV, when you watch I don't know, like talk shows or something like that, uh, you can see that each segments has a different background, so that the people know what the subject is, what they're going to be talking about, or relatively what the general vibe of the show is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's very intentional. They're very meticulous about that. So
Yep.
yeah, that's to me that's going to be tip number one. It's I feel like also something very important, something that my boss always told me when I design things is less is more. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and in uh, in that idea is that yes, you should have like small knickknacks and decorations in the background, but don't overdo it. Like
Yep.
um, as much as you want to show people your personality and things like that, the focus is mostly on you and not on what's behind you. What's behind you is just to emphasize the type of person you are, or just to add like a little bit of seasoning on on the visuals.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. So like it's like your messaging,
Mhm.
and remembering that your background is not your main, like it's not the main focus.
Yes.
It's like a seasoning, right? So it's not the main focus, is always the main subject, which is you. I mean, it should be the talent.
Yeah.
That's the main focus, right?
Yeah, because that's what people came to see. That's what people you're what people came to, consume.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go to tip number two. What do we have?
So tip number two, that's gonna be the fun stuff. So the tip number two is the key light and the fill light. So Sam, do you know what the key light is and the fill light as well?
Yeah, so you guys, if you don't know what a key light, so basically what a key light is, so basically your key light is like your main light. Right now, I have my key light is the Godox SL60W, and it's kind of like positioned at 45 degrees, kind of on the top of me a little bit,
Do you use a
and it's
softbox?
kind of kind of like is the main light for like for me as a talent, and that's gonna be your key light. Regardless of what you do, you're gonna need a key light. Again, it doesn't matter either you're creating a content at home like us, me and Steve, or you're doing some bigger events like church production or bigger events. Your key light always the same concept. It may not be one key light. So in case of bigger events, it's gonna be like your main white. They gotta be white, no RGB, no colors and stuff like that. It's gonna be one color temperature. You may choose, like right now I use 5600 Kelvin,
Mm-hmm.
which is like no more natural light, as if you
Like,
were outdoors, right? The sunlight. And yeah, it's gonna be like white, no colors, nothing, because it has to show the natural skin tones. And that's like your main key light. So
yes,
that's the key light. That's why it's called key light.
yes, it's the major key.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, so that's the key light. For me right now, I am using just my window here because I have a gigantic window and it's beautiful today. We have partial cloudiness and it's perfect. As you can see, it's giving me like some good light and also it's shining all over the bouncing all over the room.
Hmm.
So the next thing is the fill light. So essentially, what fill light is like the light that goes opposite from the key light. So right
Hmm.
now, I have a fill light right here. I'm using just a regular, like cheap ring light just to fill in the shadows. So if I turn that off, you see that, well, right now the lighting is adjusting, but you can see that my face here is pretty dark and that's not really the look I'm looking for. Plus, it's kind of like a little distracting in my opinion with all this contrast, and I want my face to be even. So when I turn it back on, it just adds a little bit of a little bit of life to the lighting. And yeah, so this is it's just like a cheap ring light that I got from Walmart. It's
Hmm.
like what, $15, but yeah, it anything really can be used as a fill light as long as you can as long as it's like it can either bounce the key light or it's like close enough to your face so that and not too powerful so that it fills in the shadows. And what's important is that you don't want the key light and the fill light to be on equal power. You just want the fill light to fill in the shadows a little bit, and it's gonna add a little bit more life to your your video. Do you have anything to add about on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said everything. So like guys, like in my case, actually I don't even have an actual feel light. But like a feel light is really like the opposite of like just this is my key light, and my feel light should be on the opposite side. Because what happens is uh when you're using your key light sometimes, because you don't want to put your key light kind of like how do I say this, like the way you position your key light, it's gotta be on the side a little bit,
Hmm.
right, not like
Yeah,
straight. So it's going to kind of create like some sort of shadows on the other side,
yeah,
and a feel light is actually kind of going to compensate that shadow and kind of make your
yeah,
face more even.
yeah.
So that's what Steve is doing. For me, in my case, I'm actually, because my room is small. Because you can see like Steve is not even using an actual light. He's using a window light, right, as his key light, and which is gonna be something that we're gonna talk about eventually. I'm using an actual light, but I don't have a feel light. But what's happening, because my key light is super powerful, is actually bouncing on the wall, and the wall is actually kind of bouncing back the light to me, so that's creating
Yeah.
the kind of even kind of looking.
The
It's probably not perfect, but I'm kind of happy with the way it looks.
What I noticed,
um
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I notice is that are you using a softbox?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm using a
So
softbox.
with that, I feel like you could. This is more of like a gray area because you don't always need a fill light. It depends as
Hmm.
to the type of light that you have. But for you, in your case, from what I'm seeing, is that your softbox is big, so and it's pretty close to you. I'm guessing,
Yeah.
um, and it's like wrapping a the light wraps around your face evenly. And the thing is, shadows aren't a bad thing. They're not your enemies. Shadows is what
Yeah.
gives shape to your the structure of your face, so you don't look like, I don't know, like a drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. So yeah, that's that, guys. So like a feel light, again, sometimes you're gonna work with some complex situations. Like if I go back to like churches and stuff like that, it's the same concept, but you may have like lights all over the place. So the key element to kind of keep in mind is you're always gonna have your key lights, like your main lights, towards your talent, and they gotta be white. Okay, they can't be RGB and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And then your field light, you're gonna see you could have some lights on the sides as well. Okay, so like on the sides and in the back, you're gonna have some lights as well, which is gonna be what we're gonna be talking about in a moment as well. So having those lights on the side, those going they are going to play as your kind of like your field light in cases of like in case of lighting bigger venues and stuff like that. But if you're creating content at home, same concept, one key light, maybe one fill light, or you can use a reflector to actually bounce back the light that you're getting from the key light, and that's gonna be awesome.
Yes.
All right, what do we have next, Steve?
Yes. Next is going to be. Let me just check my notes here. So next is going to be hair light.
Yep,
Yeah,
your hair light.
hair light. This is like the cherry on top,
Yeah.
in terms of making your video look extra professional. It's the thing that
Hmm.
makes it stand out from everyone else, essentially.
Yeah.
So essentially, so what a hair light is having like just a little rim light either on the hair or just on the side of the face, as you guys can see, like on Sam there right now, on his which side is that? Your left side or your right
Yeah,
side?
let me.
Yes.
I
So
think this
the other
this
side.
side. Yeah.
Yes, right there you go. So as you
Yeah,
can,
right here.
yeah. So as you can see, like he has a like just a little strip of light on him right now, and that just makes him pop from the background a little more. And even honestly, if I look at your feed here, um, I can see that a little bit of the purple light is bouncing back on the side of her face, and that's also
Hmm.
just given more definition to your overall, like the shape of your head and the shape of your face.
Yeah, I think somewhere here.
Yes, yes, right there. Um,
Yeah.
and that honestly, when if you guys like look at videos of people, um, like just talking head videos like this, and you'll notice the difference when they take off, when there's no like a little rim light. It just it just it just feels like it doesn't stand out really as much. I have a pretty bad example here right now, but if I added like a light right here, let's say I'm gonna give a quick little demonstration if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, so I'm
Let
gonna
me
just
put you full
use
screen.
my phone light
Mm-hmm.
here, and if I add, let's see if I can add. Trying to position myself right there. So you see
Mm-hmm.
here that like just adds just a little bit. It's not even like a huge difference, but now you can see that it's like bright here, dark here, and a little strip of brightness adds a little bit of contrast, and it makes me stand out just a little bit from the background. And when you take it off, as you can see it,
Yeah.
it makes quite a bit of difference. It's like a little splash, but
Yeah.
I find that when you have the light just a little behind you, you can see
Mm-hmm.
now that it's more intense because the light needs to needs to go around my face to be able to appear. But yeah, that's the hair light is something that is super fun, especially when you finally get to use it. That's like the extra cream of the crop on the on
Extra
the
cherry.
lighting. Yeah, yeah. Like, can you explain
Yeah.
your setup there with what
Yeah, I mean,
your light?
it's a pretty simple. So like I would love to have an actual hair light on the top here
Yeah.
somewhere, but it's impossible. So what I did is I have this lamp here. It's just a normal LED lamp. So if I turn it off,
Oh yeah.
you guys
It's
can
different.
see. I mean, because I still have my background as well, my RGB pocket light sending some light as well. Still looks good, right? But this light was it's doing two things. It's like my hair light, so it's kind of separating me from the background. It's kind of creating the depth. At the same time, it's like a lamp just being there as part of decoration. So if I put it back on, it kind of creates this kind of definition to kind of separate me from the background. You guys can see on this side here, there's this line, kind of white line, kind of separating me, like kind of shaping me to create this kind of background separation.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yeah.
Again, there's so many ways to do it. Like there's no perfect way of doing it. You kind of every like you gotta be yourself too. Like you can't. There's no like formula like everybody kind of has to follow. It's more like okay, this is the concept. Um, just be you, do you. Try to create something that kind of create your own look, your own image, what you like. I can like for instance, I'm using some RGB. Steve is not using RGB, and like his image looks good, right? So like it really depends on what you want to do, what kind of messaging, and the look that you actually going for.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yeah.
But it's important to know each element that you add, what it's going to do.
Yes, yes, that's it's very important. Um, Here in my notes, I added another thing for hair light is that the hair light doesn't necessarily need to be like warm or cold or like daylight or whatever. It's a little bit more flexible. It's really the point of it is to make you stand out from the background. So
Yep.
honestly, it can be purple if you want it, as long as you can
Mm-hmm.
actually see it. It can be red. It can be anything. It's really
Yep.
just like a splash of color. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and something that I learned from film production is called like a motivational light. So that means, let's say I have like a lamp like right here in the background, like you,
Mm-hmm.
but that lamp is not facing towards me, but everyone sees that there's a lamp there. So what a motivational light essentially is um, you use that as a reference. And
Mm-hmm.
how can I explain this without babbling too much? um,
No, go ahead, man.
so
Just be you.
so that light, everyone can see that there's a light there, but it's not actually going to hit you. So what you're
Yeah.
going to do is you're going to have a light away from the camera, which is the hair light, that's going to shine at the back of your head, and it's going to simulate the light coming from that lamp. I don't know if you guys are following me. Um, is to make it look like that lamp is actually more intense than what it is, and it looks more
Mm-hmm.
natural. It looks like you're actually in a room and you're not, the background isn't fake or anything. It's a little like subtle detail that now that I mentioned it, you'll probably notice it a lot more in movies and productions. uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's something that it's like it adds an extra level of professionalism and also just like a extra level of crispiness to your shots. It's really it's a challenge find like making it, but once you
Mm-hmm.
got it, honestly, it's hard not to notice, and it's hard to go back. Sometimes I find
Yep.
myself struggling to make my video look really good, especially when I'm doing like just regular video conferences with work or whatever. And I'm always here trying to set up everything, trying to be like, okay, what's gonna be what's gonna be my motivational light, or what's gonna be like my key light, or things like that. It's fun when especially when you start lighting things, just thinking about it a little more seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes pretty fun, and people notice it. That's the thing.
Yep.
People notice it
Yep.
because you can be,
It's like
yeah,
it's a look that you create. Like, okay, so like this is the thing. Anything that you do as a creative person, it's gotta look um normal, like in a way, like you're not creating a distraction.
yeah,
So when people watch you, the goal is to just watch,
yeah,
right? Just like enjoy the messaging, the content, and the overall look.
hmm,
Nothing should stand out. Like you don't want to have like your light in the background kind of showing off, or your
yeah,
microphone sounding too crazy. Like you have to eliminate the distraction. So like when people watch, you should be like look natural, no distraction, and like your lighting should be on point, well balanced.
hmm,
That's like the whole point of creating. Like you shouldn't notice that I have a huge light
yeah,
with a huge softbox. It shouldn't show. It should My softbox should be uh good enough to just show me as a person, well lit, well lighting, well balanced, and that's it. Not overexposed, not underexposed, just the right amount of light.
hmm,
Even though I can add more brightness and actually make myself look more bright, right? But that's not what you want to do. Same thing as a background, right? Background, all the stuff that you put in the background, everything has to be intentional.
yeah. Essentially, less is more.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. Same concept.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I think we have talk less, listen more in the chat. Actually, let's I forgot your name actually, because I believe your name is not talk less, listen more. But she's one of our members, guys. By the way, we have a membership on the channel. So if you want to support the channel, if you enjoy the content that we're creating, you can join. Just a small fee that you pay every month. That helps us actually to keep creating the content, coming up with videos and stuff like that. So I appreciate all the members. So every time I see one of our members in the chat, it's always a pleasure to actually acknowledge them. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I believe Lee had a question before we go to the next tip. I don't know if it was a question, but let me check it out. It was a quick comment here. So Lee says, "I'm so bad at this. I always leave my lighting last. I don't have a studio. Just do my live stream from my dining room. I should prioritize it." Yes, I don't know if Lee is still here, but that's right. That's right. Your lighting's like, oh man, like you should start with your audio. After your audio is your lighting.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Very important. Because I don't care even if you got the best camera in the world. If your lighting is bad,
Yeah.
everything is bad,
Yeah.
you know? So that's that.
Yeah.
All right. So I believe our next tip was about the camera positioning.
Yes. So that's the next tip: camera positioning. So essentially, like the way your camera is positioned is gonna determine how the light is gonna wrap around you. It's like when you look at when something is being lit. Let's say I'm gonna give another example because I'm a very visual person. So let's
Mm-hmm.
say what can I use? I'll just use my fist. So let's say like this. um, with my light here. Can I increase that? No. So let's say with this, so the camera is looking at me like face, but let's say this is like it should be better with my face, I guess. So let's say the camera is on this on the side. So I look at it like this, and you can see that the light wraps around my face from the front like this. Because let's say that this camera is like a side camera, but if I turn the camera to face me, you can see now that the light is gonna hit me on the side and it's gonna go around like this. But essentially, imagine the camera as being the eyes of the audience. Um, that's something that's really, I feel like that's what brings everything together as to how the essentially the lighting is going to look like. Um, and I feel like I'm babbling here now. Sam, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just give me a second. I think we have some questions in the chat
Yeah.
that we're gonna get to as well in a moment. Just wanted to show a quick image. Maybe I believe I can find something I can show. So let's go get something here. Um, no, I have here. Um, I was gonna show you my screen, but full screen. So I believe you guys couldn't hear me. Now you should be able to hear me now. So I'm just gonna show you a little quick. So this is like, if you guys can see my screen, this is like the uh just a quick image to show you how your key, like the whole lighting thing should be. So you have your key light. This is your talent. You have your fill light on the opposite side. Okay, this is your camera. This is your positioning. Okay, and then you have your backlight. Obviously your backlight can be at the same time your kind of your hair light kind of thing, and that's pretty much it. So you can see like your camera and your key light, the positioning not the same, right? The camera is in the middle, the key light on the side, and the fill light has to be 50% brightness compared to the key light. Okay, again, this is just to give you an idea. um So I believe we're talking about the um
The camera position.
the camera positioning.
Yes.
So yes, I mean, like I gave you an idea of how your camera, where the camera, that's like your main camera. Obviously, if you're doing a multi-camera shoot, it's not, it's gonna be completely a different story.
Yeah.
But that's like the positioning of your main, if I can call it your main key camera, right? So that's that. I believe we had a question from is it Isaac? Let me see. Okay, Isaac says, what do you think about the key light? Is it better to be tungsten light or a day light? Okay, so my thoughts on that is actually it's gotta be any light, tungsten or daylight, it should work, okay? But one thing that you have to get right, is your camera settings. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're shooting with the light, your key light is at 3200 Kelvin. You have to make sure your white balance is actually in your camera. Go to your camera and use 3200 Kelvin as your white balance. So you have to make sure your camera matches your key light always. Your white balance has to match the key light. Now, whatever is in the background, whatever, other lights, I don't care. But the main light, the key light has to match the color temperature of your key light. No, the camera's white balance has to match the key light's color temperature. Now, if you're using the daylight, like myself, I'm using 5600 Kelvin. My camera is set as 5600 Kelvin, and that's my white balance in the camera. So as long as they match, you should be good.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter which color temperature you're actually using. Okay, although some some lights are not actually true white. That's why you're gonna have some issues. Okay, it may not be a big deal, you may not notice it, but if you can have like true white, like that's gonna be depending on what you're trying to do. So basically, like true white, they say if you're using this RGB, they say if you buy an RGB LED light and you trying to use the white function. So what it's doing is basically it's trying to mix red, blue, green in a way that they're going to create a white color. So it may work, but it's not true white. Okay. So that's gonna be, the biggest difference. But other than that, just make sure the color temperature matches your white balance in the camera. You should
Hmm.
be able to get nice looking skin tones.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Steve?
Yeah. So, I agree with you as well. With as long as the camera settings is like you set your white balance within the camera, it really doesn't matter if it's a tungsten or a daylight. But the thing is, it's gonna make your life so much easier if you have daylight because you won't have to
True.
mess with anything in the camera. Um, but Yeah, as long as you can like do that. A quick tip in terms of like setting your daylight, your white balance uh, is when you go on, let's say, your camera and you're on this random scene that the lights are just a little weird and everything just looks like off or something. The light is too warm on your face and the background, the light is just, I don't know what. A really easy like way to white balance is to literally just take a white sheet of paper, a napkin or whatever, and use that as a reference point to have a true point, a true white point. And then in your camera, you can go in your white balance settings, and I think it's called a custom white balance, and you can set that to um, whatever. So sorry, let me restart. So you point,
The color temperature you're working with.
yeah, yeah. So you point the camera towards the white like piece of paper, and then in the camera you just adjust it until that white piece of paper looks white in your camera essentially, and then after
Yep.
that everything will just fall together and your light will look good, even if the light is um I don't know, like even if the light is really blue or really green, as long as you use that like white piece of paper, it's gonna work. It's
Yeah, I've actually had that issue before. Like people will tell you, oh, you gotta use this to set your white balance, and then you get in an environment where you have like 50 lights,
yes,
okay, and you have to set your white balance, okay.
yeah,
You have like some green, blue,
yeah,
white, yellow, right? You're like, okay, how do I set my white balance? Okay. So the key, if you're not in a control, actually, because you may be in the control of your lighting. So if you know your lights, the easiest way is always to follow your key light, right? Your main lights. your white light kind of, that being sent or being cast to your main subject. You follow that. So if you're using 5600 Kelvin, you're gonna use that in your camera. Go to your camera, go to custom white balance, and then choose the exact number to match it.
Hmm.
Now, if you can't do that, you're gonna use the method that Steve just said, using a white sheet of paper. That actually the camera is going to kind of take a picture, find any white sheet of paper, and the camera is going to take that as a reference for like something that looks white. That's the main goal. The main goal is to get what's white, get it white. So
Yeah,
if white is white on the camera, then the rest is gonna be the right colors.
yeah.
So that's one way of actually doing it, and actually
Hmm.
it works a lot, especially when you're in the room. Let's say you shooting a wedding, and then you get in the room, you realize they have so many lights and colors and blah blah blah. You're like, okay, what's gonna be the key lights? You're not gonna be walking around asking the guys on the lighting like, oh, hey, what's the key light? What's the color temperature? Please, I need
Oh,
it.
imagine
Right?
do
So having a white sheet is gonna save your time.
that.
you know
Yeah, there's actually dedicated like white balance cards, but I feel like, if you're not really into like film production or anything, you don't necessarily need those, because they cost a lot more than a piece of paper. I can tell you that, and a piece of
Yeah.
paper will do the same job. Um, but yeah, it's setting your white balance in your camera honestly changes, like makes a night and day difference, especially when you're dealing with lighting. If you're on the field, like you said, if you're in a wedding, or even at church, often I have to always set my white balance every single time, because there's different fixtures, but we just set it at one where it's adequate for different presets of lighting. Um, but when it comes to, like, let's say I'm recording in studio for a show, for a broadcast show, we always have to set the white balance, because you never know. Sometimes light just bounces on different materials and it creates different colors. And even, let's say you're outside and you're trying to record a video outside, and you have the sun and it's beautiful, and you think you have enough light, and the colors are beautiful to your eyes, but the camera sees differently. And the thing that you don't see is that the green grass is actually reflecting onto your face, and it gives a green cast on your face. But if you adjust your white balance, that green is going to turn back to normal skin tone, and it's going to save you a lot of trouble and a lot of headaches.
Yep. All right. I believe our tip number 5 is actually using natural light, which is
Yeah.
something we already talked about. You are using natural light, your window light right now, which is
Yes,
awesome.
yes. I'm
So,
using that right now. It's honestly, this is my favorite way to light. Um, it's a little bit. It can be a little challenging because you have to depend on the weather, and obviously you can't do it at night. Uh,
yeah.
but right now, today, it's like partially cloudy, but the clouds are moving pretty slow. There's not a lot of like too intense wind, so the light is pretty even. But the best weather to have natural lighting is actually overcast. So because it's pretty much the clouds create like this gigantic Earth-sized softbox, and
Yeah.
the light is just beautiful. It's consistent. It doesn't change. You're gonna see in my situation right now is that the light kind of comes in and out sometimes, but on an overcast day, you just get same consistent light, and it's actually the best time uh, to record outside. If you ever want to record outside, overcast is the best. But yeah, natural light, the best thing about it is that it's completely free. which is my
Yeah.
favorite word. You
Yeah,
don't have
it
to
doesn't
spend
cost you
yeah,
anything.
you don't have to spend any money because it's right there. It's available to you, and yeah, you can. It's very versatile, especially if you're in a place and you have lots of like natural light windows. Here, I just have like the windows are only on one side of my apartment, but they're
Hmm.
pretty big, so it creates like this big softbox like effect on my face, which I
Yeah,
like a lot.
it actually looks nice, man.
It does. It does. I use it often when I have to do video conferencing. Actually,
Yeah,
especially when I'm a little lazy to set up like all of my lightings and all that things. Uh,
yeah.
but it comes in very handy, especially on overcast days. That's what I try to aim. Yeah. Do you have anything to add about?
No, I think it's well said, man. Like you can use your natural light, your window, always try to sit like kind of your face facing the window or kind of like same concept as where you would place an actual key light.
Hmm.
Okay, don't sit against your window because it's not gonna look good.
No.
Other than that, obviously you're gonna be depending on your on the actual weather. That's the downside of it. But other than that, I mean, as long as you got your settings, your camera settings right, you should be able to get a decent amount of light
Yeah.
and a beautifully
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
looking picture.
And it's
So
the most accurate like white like true white you're
yeah,
ever gonna get.
yeah.
Um, yeah, you don't really have to set up anything. Um, but yeah, it's very versatile. And another thing I wanted to add is that with with natural light is a little harder to control,
Hmm.
but you can bounce it to the light bounces around everywhere, but you can also bounce it on like let's say a Bristol board or like a white Bristol board or some kind of reflective material, and it's gonna add like a nice. It can be like the fill light that you're gonna use if you don't have a fill light, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's. I feel like it's very versatile. I tend to like using things that I don't really necessarily want to spend money on.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you want to save some money,
Exactly.
that's an option actually. We got somebody in the chat who's Otorio Production from India. Thank you so much for joining. We do
Yes.
appreciate you.
Yes. Welcome.
We got Lee. I don't know if you guys still here, but if you're still watching, if you guys have questions, this is the moment. Let us know if you have a few questions before we end the stream. Actually, we're gonna be ending in like 5 minutes. So if you have some quick questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But other than that, we appreciate you guys being here. We hope the information we shared today was helpful. Remember to hit the like button. It's always appreciated when you like the video, the stream, share to a friend, a family, somebody you think that may actually enjoy the stream.
Oh, someone from
Uh,
Cameroon is here.
yeah, we get somebody from Cameroon. Edwin, thank you so much for joining. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so guys, I mean, like, those are like the 5 tips that we actually had to share with you guys. Your lighting is very important
Oh,
and it's
wait.
actually very, very simple.
We have
We
another
get a
question
question?
here. It's from
Yeah.
Isaac. He says, "What do you have to say about flagging lights? Do
Let
you have
me
anything to
see.
add about that?"
Let me see in the chat. Flagging lights. What's flagging
Yeah, I
lights?
don't I don't necessarily know what flagging lights is. Never had to.
Isaac, could you explain a little bit just for us to understand what's flagging lights? Just for us to have an idea of what you're talking about. Maybe it's something that we don't know.
Maybe we could learn something.
Yeah, we could learn something. Yeah, let us know in the chat. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you guys have questions, make sure you leave them down below in the chat before we end the stream. But other than that, I mean, it's really about understanding the concept.
Oh,
Again,
okay.
it's always confusing. You got it?
Yeah, he says using black clothes to control light. Okay, so he means negative fills.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes, negative
Okay.
fills.
You
Um,
got something to say about it?
yeah, so I personally don't use a lot of negative fills. I like to bounce light a lot more, but I think that they are very versatile. They're very important, especially if sometimes you don't have. Um, Sometimes you have too much light in a room where some of them you can't control. So let's say you have your key light and you're hitting yourself and it's actually hitting like the background in there, but you don't want to turn down the key light. So you use a negative fill is what we call it, to cut that light to block it from going into the background. Um, but also sometimes if you're like, I don't know, you're recording yourself next to a colored wall, but you don't have like the wall in frame, negative fill is going to help you a lot in that situation. So instead, you can put that negative fill in front of that wall, and it's going to cut the color, the light bouncing from that wall completely. And also, the thing is, since it's a negative fill, it can also add shape to your face. So adding shadows back to your face. Sometimes you can have too much light, and adding just a little bit of that will make your face look a little more 3D. Just like by blocking, it just adds. As you can, I guess you can see here on the side of my face.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it kind of that's kind of what it does. It wraps around and it blocks a little bit of the light and it adds a little bit of 3 dimension, especially when you have too much light.
Yeah, guys. I mean, Steve is a photographer, so you know how detailed photographers are.
But like I said,
I
I don't
think
use it that much.
yeah. I mean, again, like it all depends on where you what kind of set you're trying to create, the
Yeah.
mood that you're going for, the effect that you are going for. There's no right or wrong way. I mean, as long as obviously you don't want to be overexposed and kind of looking crazy, or kind of having like some blue, green, red, light on your face, right?
Hmm.
But as long as you understand all the principles, you should be good. Like be yourself, create your own look. You can use like you can use some reflectors, you can use some white walls depending on the key light that you're using to kind of bounce back some of the light. You can use the black stuff to block. Speaking of black curtains, I think we were talking about it yesterday, me and Steve. If you're working in a place where you have like big windows and you're trying to block, especially say, because they say if you like Steve right now, if we're to stream for 5 hours, it will start getting darker
Yeah,
outside and he will
it would.
start losing, right? It will start getting darker and darker. So if you're working in a place where, let's say, a professional, setup, you probably want to block all the windows if you have big windows and actually use artificial lights and kind of start from zero, like from
Exactly.
scratch, right? Very, very important. So, like, if you have big windows, use black curtains to kind of block the windows so that when you have all the lights, like in my studio right now, if I was to to turn off my key light and all the lights that I have in the background, it would be like pitch black. You wouldn't see a thing.
Yeah.
So that means I'm in control of my lighting. So that's what you want, especially like if you try to work with big churches where you kind of have like to design your lighting, your stage lighting and stuff like that. Very, very important to block the windows, make sure there's no natural light coming in, and design your lighting from like pitch black, from scratch, from zero. Keep adding lights and create the look that you actually
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
So very,
Yeah.
very
I
important.
was mentioning yesterday how like when you light a scene, it's really like sculpting. You keep adding things and you can subtract things, and that's really what you're doing. You're sculpting with light, essentially. You're trying to shape your face to look like a certain way with the light, and yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Yep. All right. Let's see if you have any other question. No, it looks like everything. It's everything we have talked about. Everything in the chat. So it looks like the chat is quiet. So it's basically our cue to end the stream. So guys, again, thank you so much for joining today, Steve. Thank you so much. I think it was actually awesome. I think it was fun.
Yes, thank you for
Uh,
having me.
yeah, I mean, hopefully we're gonna do it. I don't know, maybe next week or the week after.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, guys, go ahead and let us know down below in the comments. If you're watching on a replay, let me know in the comment section if you want us to cover something specific. Again, these tips that we talked about can actually apply if you're trying to do a professional Zoom kind of Zoom calls, kind of office, where you can take your Zoom calls and stuff like that. You can use the same concepts to actually build your set for Zoom calls and stuff like that. If you're working from home, this will actually still apply. So if you have questions, if you want us to cover a specific topic, let us know in the chat, or let us know, leave a comment down below if you're watching on replay. But other than that, we do appreciate you guys. We do appreciate you for supporting us. Again, we have memberships opened as well, so you guys can support if you want to support the channel as well. Do appreciate that. But other than that, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you haven't liked this video or this stream, make sure you hit that like button. But other than that, we do appreciate you guys for being here, and hopefully we will see you next time on a video or another live stream. Hey Steve, say bye to the people.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. We see you next time. Take care.
Take care, everyone.